guests, ladies and gentlemen, we are delighted to welcome you to the UAE Government Experience Exchange Talks, where we proudly share the knowledge, experiences, and best practices in the UAE and the world. Today, we will learn more about the Dubai Future Foundation approach and techniques in shaping the future, fostering innovation, driving transformative initiatives, and promoting collaboration to create a future that is technologically advanced, sustainable, and inclusive, benefiting both the United Arab Emirates and the global community. Allow me to welcome His Excellency Khalfan Belhoul, the CEO of the Dubai Future Foundation, leading and transforming businesses and organizations that contribute to Dubai's strategy of economic diversification. His Excellency ensures Dubai Future Foundation acts as a catalyst in promoting change, innovation, and bringing together individuals, organizations, and government entities to turn their visions into realities and achieve sustainable and effective business operations. He also created through DFF a home to several initiatives that also provide the environment and resources needed to promote disruptive positive change through prototyping, accelerating, and knowledge sharing. Your Excellency, Khalfan Belhoul, the floor is yours.
Iman, thank you very much, first of all, for the great introduction, and always wishing you and the team the best for all what you do, and specifically this program. Your Excellencies, dear friends, wherever you are around the world, thank you for being here with us today. I know there are different time zones and different locations that our dear friends and excellencies are from at the moment, and thank you for making the time and effort to be here with us today. I promise you I'll be as effective and as fast and as efficient as possible in trying to convey what the Dubai Future Foundation does. It's a unique entity. I mean, I'm blessed to be part of it, blessed to be part of an amazing team that does very interesting and cool stuff. From the name, you might see that we're a very agnostic entity that looks at a lot of things, which makes it exciting. It is exciting, I promise you that, but it sometimes also it can be challenging and hectic because you look at so many sectors. But at the same time, a life is not interesting without challenges. And like we've learned from our leadership, and you'll see that through the presentation, it's always how you really convert those challenges into impactful opportunities. And that's the basis of the Dubai Future Foundation. So without further ado, if you don't mind, I will take you through a presentation, which will hopefully make my life easier in conveying the story. And the first thing I need to know is how to share a screen, which I think I do know. And once, if Iman, you can just give me a thumbs up that you can actually see
yes, sure.
a screen.
I can see your screen now.
Perfect. Okay, so now I'll just hit play. Can you see the Dubai Future Foundation logo?
Yes. Yeah,
okay,
perfect.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'll start the presentation, and I mean, depending on the format, Iman, feel free. I think the questions are towards the end if there are any, but I'll be extremely. I'll try to be as efficient as possible with my presentation, but the structure of it will first talk about the history. We can never talk about the future without mentioning the history and how the founding fathers have established this DNA of future foresight. It hasn't started today. This is something that we've blessed with since the founding fathers, and then we'll take the journey into what the DFF does at the moment, and then I won't leave you without leaving you with some view of the future and some of the challenges and opportunities we see. That's the sole purpose of our existence. So we might as well share our thoughts and our thinking, which can be a potential collaboration angle for us all. I'll leave you with 10 mega trends of the future that we can potentially discuss, and hopefully it will be a reason for us to connect and create a better future for us all. We start with this slide clearly because this resembles our history. This was one of, if not the main source of income for the region, which was pearl trading. And the reason we try to refer back to this all the time, it's a good reminder to see how, and obviously, thanks to the vision of our leaders, how we have transformed significantly in such a short period of time. But we always like to remember our humble beginnings, that this was our main source of income. Then, of course, oil came up, and then diversification came up. And now we sit in an era where we have a future foundation looking at digital economies, virtual realities, looking at blockchain, looking at AI, looking at genome sequencing, and so many things in such a short period of time. But it's always a reminder, it's a strong reminder for us to remember where we were. What we like to remember as well is the DNA of our founding leaders, the late His Highness Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan, the founding father of the UAE, and his visionary bets, if you will, and decisions that were risky at that time. Here he is discussing with consultants like Dr. Makhlouf a master plan of something extremely ambitious at that time, and some people looked at it as something that's not doable, but he had this foresight and he had this risk-taking in his mind, where he made a bet that this country is strategically positioned in a way that it really can connect the East and the West. And besides everyone's views, he actually made a bet and transformed this master plan into what you see in the screen here. And many people had doubts in that, but the thinking behind this is that we build and they will come, and we take a bet, and we look at the stars and shoot for those stars. And this is one way to show you that this is something that has been there since the founding fathers. Another founding father is the late Sheikh Rashid bin Saeed Al Maktoum, who also made a bet here with Mr. Harris as well, betting on the World Trade Center, which back in my school days was the highest and tallest building in Dubai. It was a 30-story building, and they used to take us there for school, and we used to go to the 30-something floor and look at the skyline of Dubai and see and feel proud of that massive bet at that time that was built in a desert. There was also hesitancy from the consultants saying that this might not work, but His Highness made a bet and built a skyline that started with that building. And clearly here you see in this video a time lapse that isn't 200 or 300 or 400 years old. This is a skyline that is probably 25, 30 years maximum. And it shows you the speed. I mean, thanks to God and thanks to our leaders and their bet in the region. This is what actually Dubai looks like now. And probably from this video onwards, there's even more development happening in the city and in the whole country. This is the skyline. It's a relatively new picture. Also, there's more development into this picture. But what I want to refer to here is, remember what I mentioned as the unique tower that I used to go to back in my school days. Well, this is the actual tower that I used to go to, and that's the skyline of Dubai and the United Arab Emirates at the moment. So it shows you that it's so much risk-taking and so much belief that this city and this country can do a lot. And I mean, thanks to that mindset. And of course, along this journey, there have been pivoting moments. There have been decisions that didn't go our way. But that's the idea of taking measured risks and really double downing on the ones that are really heading in the right direction, because without those pivotal moments, you don't learn, and you need to have that in your DNA. And that's what has trickled down to us from our leaders. It's that DNA of really taking that measured risk to go forward. UAE, of course, continued with the leadership of His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan and His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, continuing that DNA from the founding fathers, making additional bets. Who would have imagined that one of the largest ports in the world and one of the largest sports network will be from the country? Who would have imagined that the hub of sustainability and one of the largest nuclear plants as well will come out of this country as well, and the Emirate of Abu Dhabi? Who would have imagined that the largest fleet or combined fleets as well of international carriers would come out of this country? I mean, those are all courageous bets and beliefs that have taken place in the past. And the message here is that this risk-taking and mindset is the ultimate most important component for any city or any country to really drive for a future mandate. If you don't have this thinking and this empowerment and delegation of the people and the responsible individuals, then no matter how great the ideas are, the execution will not be aligned. So this was the initial vision. Now, our job at the Dubai Future Foundation is really to take that DNA and continue it with continuous bets in different ideas that are more on the futuristic side, which means that the further you go in the future, the riskier the endeavor becomes. But the reward is also massive. So you need to measure that risk versus reward and take the bets that make sense. And the beauty about this is that when you have leaders that really entrust you and delegate this responsibility to you, the sky's the limit on where you can reach. So that's the mindset part of the presentation. Now, how this all started is also or how the formation of the Dubai Future Foundation. It actually started in this white box that you had just saw in the first, at the beginning of this video. This white box is a small immersive experience that was temporarily built in the World Government Summit. The World Government Summit is an annual convening that happens in Dubai. It's a similar convening to the World Economic Forum. The forum is probably more catered towards executives with a touch of government leaders. You can flip the formula for the summit where the main focus is government leaders with a touch of executives, CEOs from all over the world, but of course also presidents, rulers, prime ministers, ministers, and ambassadors from all over the world attend. More than 3,500 delegates and growing in this event. And in that event, there was this small immersive experience that's on the screen right now. And the idea of that immersive experience was leadership wanted the delegation to really walk through a future relevant dialogue. And as you can see in the video here, some people are trying the future of food section. There's a section about AI, back in the days, the interaction of humanity with robotics. And the message behind this immersive experience is that we wanted a joint dialogue on how we can create a better future jointly with decision makers. It only took His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum one walk throughout this immersive experience to go into this white box, as I mentioned, from the entrance, and then leave or exit from the other side in about 15 minutes of his quick visit, for him to come out and make a decision that the conversation that he heard and the dialogue that he's heard and interactions that took place should not be confined to 3,000 delegates and decision makers. This future thinking, one, should be institutionalized. There should be a process for it. And two, should not be confined to those delegates, should be for the 7 billion plus population starting from Dubai and the UAE, and sending out a message that we really want to shape create a collaborative future and a joint future and an inclusive one with the rest of the world. So that was his message. And that's the beauty of our leaders. They come in with a seed of a vision, and out of that vision, they hand it over to a responsible team to come up with a process for it. And that's all you need to really take things forward. And that's where the Dubai Future Foundation was announced. It was the entity that will create that future and shape it with the world jointly and collaboratively. And that's where the announcement was made. And the idea was we need to create an institutionalized setup for future foresight. Now, how that works, this is our journey, and it was an evolving journey. We obviously, it wasn't an easy journey because it wasn't something that we could easily benchmark around the world. It was, like I said, a seed of a vision, and we had to convert it into an institution. So we had to go through iterations until we really believe that this is the most ideal iteration for a future foundation to work. And in order for it to work in the way we believe it should work, it should have the right muscle behind it. Because when you work with the future, you work with a lot of policy change and you work with a lot of innovation. So you really need the decision makers to be behind you across all sectors, whether it being mobility, having His Excellency Matar al-Tayer, or whether it being energy, having His Excellency Saeed al-Tayer, who's managing DIWA, or whether it's security related, you have His Excellency the Major General Abdullah al-Marri, who is the Commander-in-Chief of Dubai Police. And you have, as you can see, you have ministerial responsibilities for, His Excellency Amar al-Ulama, our Minister of State of AI and Digital Economy and Remote Work Applications. I mean, imagine not having him on the board to amend and apply artificial intelligence. His Excellency Mohammed al-Ghawi, the Minister of Cabinet Affairs, and of course our Vice Chairman here. So you have many leaders across all sectors that are willing to disrupt their sectors, and they are basically our power to amend things within different regulations. And last but not least, chaired by His Highness Sheikh Hamdan bin Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, our Crown Prince and the Chairman of the Board of Trustees. So imagine the power behind this, and without that, I don't think we'll be able to really disrupt sectors and change the status quo and ensure that we're really futuristic at all times. So this is the Board of Trustees of Dubai's Future Foundation, and as you see, very agnostic roles and responsibilities to help us really work on different policies and policy changes. Now, how do we work? This slide summarizes it, but it looks pretty simple. The left side of it, or the blue side of the screen, is where everything starts. In order for us to launch projects that are future-driven, our main role, which is our core or bread and butter, is understanding the future. So before we even decide on what we want to do about the future, we need to understand where the future is heading. And this is where we really need to create the most sophisticated mechanism, whether our internal team or our external networks, whether they're institutions, entities, or subject matter experts. How do we create this powerhouse and this global network and nodes to ensure that we listen to every view about the future from experts before we actually decide on doing something about them? So the green side is the execution of projects. But to me, the priority comes on the left, because without that, we really cannot deploy projects. So I'll go into what we've done, but this just summarizes what we do. We look at global trends and global opportunities, which we will share with you towards the end of the presentation. And once we do that, then we deploy different projects that are relevant to the future. Of course, we can't do everything. So what we do is we prioritize what matters most to humanity as a whole, and what can Dubai and the UAE do about those priorities to ensure that we create the largest impact. So I'll start with those projects and why we go on those projects. But now I'll start with the left side, which is the blue side, on how we really deliver the most impactful foresight. And we do this by ensuring that we have the most impactful dialogues around the world and the most impactful convenings that will help us generate the best reports. So one thing we did is we said, hold on, let's see who's out there that actually is overseeing the future mandate. So we called them all, connected everyone. As you can see, some of those brands, the Association of Professional Futurists, the Millennium Projects, Global Futures Research Capacity, the WFSF, and many other foresight networks and individuals. We've signed them all up at the Museum of the Future, which is our headquarters, which I'll come to in a bit. And we created the largest network of future entities, and we called it the Global Future Society. And they became our nodes around the world. Whenever we wanted to discuss or disseminate a report, it goes through those networks and ensures that we are all aligned on what matters most for humanity in the future. Then we launched the Dubai Future Forum, which for us, and that's the video you see in the background, is actually the inaugural event of the Future Forum. We've invited more than 400 experts from around the world. Experts and subject matter experts and futurists came in, including government leaders, of course, came in and had a dialogue about the future. And the idea that we wanted this to be the flagship futurists convening that gathers in all the conversations, whether it's from the global societies or future experts or subject matter experts as well, come in here and know that this convening is the one that can help them disseminate their views of the future. And of course, no other place than the Museum of the Future to be a headquarter for this convening, because that was the message of His Highness. The museum is not only about the immersive experience, which I'm going to talk about in a bit, but it's also should be a home for the most important conversations of the future. We also launched different gatherings. Their niche is topic-related gatherings. So the forum is the general discussion of the future. It happens annually. The assembly changes names every year. The Metaverse Assembly was last year when the Metaverse had initially been launched, and it was a very hot topic to start with. We launched the Metaverse Assembly. Why? Because we knew that we didn't know much about Metaverse. So the only way to actually know more about Metaverse is, why don't we launch a convening dedicated to the Metaverse and listen up to experts and people on how we can deploy the Metaverse in different ways and possible, and how usable is it within our government services and even beyond at the private sector. So this assembly evolves a year-on-year basis, depending on what topics we believe we really need to laser focus and zoom on and come up with tangible and actionable ideas that can help us use the Metaverse. Here, for example, as you can see, maybe the video before that, the Minister of Economy had actually presented to us his Metaverse experience in the ministry and how it was used to obtain services from the ministry. We also launched an academy. The idea here as well is to help prepare the people for the future, launching different courses from futurist courses all the way to preparing government employees for the future. Also preparing chief futurists across different government departments and the private sector. And the idea of the academy to grow and become an institute that provides different courses and help when it comes to the readiness of government entities and the private sector for the future. The more you have that mindset disseminated, the easier the dialogue is to execute future relevant projects. Coding is something, of course, that we believe will play a key role in the digital economy. So the idea was, let's help the Arab world with the coding program and then go global. We launched the 1 million Arab coders program, and thankfully more than 1 million have enrolled to this program, helping us really infuse this talent into the innovation ecosystem. And because, as we know, coding will play a key role in all those startups. So we said, okay, let's get those technical expertise with the business developers, with the financiers, whether it's VC or debt, and infuse them all together in one ecosystem and help them build new businesses. And this, as you can see in the screen, is the moment when His Highness Sheikh Hamdan rewarded the best coder of the program with the biggest prize of the event. The World Economic Forum is another node that we connect with. Remember, I said we usually connect with like-minded people. With the World Economic Forum, we've signed with the Center of Fourth Industrial Revolution as another foresight entity for us to really connect with experts and share our plans and come up with pilot projects. So this is a picture of the presence of His Highness Sheikh Hamdan and a few colleagues and ministers in Davos, signing that center that ran several pilots across launching a blockchain toolkit and looking at different topics like machine learning and genome sequencing and many other topics and programs. So there's a special relationship with WEF to ensure that we leverage on their network and expertise as well. Just a glimpse of what reports we've kind of disseminated based on this effort. As I said, before launching projects, we've looked at different ways to understand the future. So what you've seen are all efforts for us to, in what we believe are the best ways of being collaborative, inclusive, and having a discussion of the future with the world. And they're coming up with documentations that we can all use together and share. And speaking of that, of course, happy to share all those reports with you, Excellencies and dear friends, once the session is over and going forward, of course. Now, the section of the other projects that came as an outcome of all this foresight. One interesting one is the Dubai 10X. Dubai 10X, from its name, maybe you can realize that it has a multiplier effect, and this multiplier was His Highness's vision was we need to ensure that we think 10 times faster, and we need to go 10 times bigger and in our thinking. And this is an outside the box initiative where we or government agencies have been asked to come up with projects that are completely outside the box and have 10 months to actually work on them and come up with impactful projects that are completely outside the box. And this created this exciting internal competition, which was very interesting because there were specific deadlines, and every government agency came up with extremely interesting ideas. Here we're sharing one of them from Dubai Police, which is Project Ayun. Ayun means eyes in Arabic. And this was a project where Dubai Police has launched a pilot test in Expo 2020, which was obviously here in the UAE. And the idea is that health and safety is a priority, and the country had eyes all over that project and beyond in Dubai to ensure that the health and safety of every individual living in this emirate and country. And it was extremely successful. And this is just an example of many other projects that have been launched. The Dubai Future Accelerators, something I'd like to share with your excellencies, because I believe there's a lot of room for synergy. As you can see here, His Highness Hamdan is testing the product. The formula is simple, but the impact is huge. The idea here is that why don't we as government create a unique accelerator program? We want zero equity in it, no involvement from a share perspective whatsoever, unless we actually use one of our funding tools, which I'll come back to later. But the idea is that we are a platform that connects startups to solve for government entities' challenges. Every government entity will launch a challenge statement. And based on that challenge statement, startups from all over the world, and as you can see here, more than 310 startups actually went through this pilot phase. The numbers of applications obviously is in thousands, but the idea that we onboarded those startups, for example, Dubai municipality would request a challenge statement related to using 3D printing technology for construction. Dubai police can request a startup to help them use AI for crime scene detection. I don't know. I mean, different ideas like that. And once they come here, they have 9 weeks to work with the government agency. And the carrot at the end is that the government will sign a contract with them. Their value will appreciate. This will attract venture capitalists, and the flourishing of the innovation ecosystem will grow, will take place. I mean, the validation of a government being inclusive enough to allocate procurement capital to riskier ideas, of course, not all of its procurement, but showing more of an inclusive government, not only dealing with the big tech multinationals that, of course, are great to work with, but allocating some portion to the entrepreneurs, to the SME, is a big sign of inclusivity, is a big sign of creating hope for those new ideas. And also is a big sign that you might even be part of a new, amazing, successful unicorn and story, which is a big story for the region and for the exit stories and the IPOs that has happened have happened recently in the region. And with this program, of course, as you can see, we've dealt with startups, but also big companies to generate the numbers that you see. And for us, like I said, as a program, we had zero equity in all this. We just saw those startups flourish within the program and have hope being created for them by signing up with different government agencies to solve for their challenges. And I'll come later on, I mean, a few slides later from after this, to a topic where we've injected a funding mechanism to help them grow as well, but with an impact metric to it. The Dubai Future Labs its main role is really to focus on R&D. We strongly believe that there's lots more to do when it comes to R&D to create this in-country value within the region, not only the UAE. So we have launched different programs, different strategies to invest in technologies and invest in research and development. If investing in technology takes time, R&D takes even much more time, and we need to be more patient, deploy patient capital, and create room for error and for mistakes, and really taking those mistakes as learning curves. And this is what Dubai Future Labs does. Studying different topics, studying different solutions, but really at an early pilot pre-IP stage where students and academia get involved. And there's a big emphasis from leadership really to focus on R&D, because it's really the key driver for innovation that starts at its infancy. And the robotics and automation program is a complementary program for this R&D effort. I maybe switched slides, and here is a bit more elaboration on the research and development program, but they obviously work hand in hand. Now, to complement all that, we also launched a 1 billion dirham fund. And the reason I mentioned it earlier is because we also look at what comes out from the accelerator. Like I said, we didn't take equity in the accelerator program as sweat equity because we've created all that, which is usually what accelerator programs do. They gather startups, they help them grow, and they take a piece of the pie. We didn't do that. Our piece of the pie is actually injecting capital in and helping those startups grow. And we don't only look at the accelerator programs, we actually look at successful startups in the region. But the key point to pay attention to here is that we don't look at financial gains only when it comes to this fund. We are an impact double bottom line fund that looks at IRR and multiple, but also look at the job creation and the sector introduction that we do. And this fund catalyzes. We invest in funds directly, and we invest directly in startups. The reason we do both is we want to raise the awareness of this emerging asset class. Venture capital is something that's emerging in comparison to the asset classes that investors and multinationals and family offices are comfortable with within the region. The fact that a government-led initiative is anchoring funds will help raise awareness and comfort levels for the private sector to invest. So our metric will be how much have we really helped the ecosystem grow? It's not only the fund generating the IRR, but it's how much have we really boosted this ecosystem to help it grow and create the right percentages of GDP that's invested in one, VC, and second in R&D. Once those percentages have increased, we know that this fund has created a multiplier effect to really boost the innovation ecosystem. So like I said, there's an impact and a financial lens when it comes to this fund. So this is maybe a suggestion or maybe a presentation on what kind of projects that we have gone through. Of course, there's more than 30 or 32 projects, but I cherry-picked a few that might be more relevant to the audience, where we can discuss co-investments or discuss attracting different startups from different countries to help solve for solutions, or also disseminate our reports and have a discussion on them. But last but not least, from the projects, this is the box that I talked about in the beginning, where His Highness had launched the Dubai Future Foundation and came in from one door and exited from the other and made the announcement. Well, this box has transformed into this most beautiful building, which I encourage and maybe unofficially here send out an invitation to all of you to come and join us. And for those of you that haven't been to this building, it is a continuation of the thinking of leadership on how future foresight has been institutionalized. And as you can see, it's a uniquely built building. And this was the moment of pride for us when the museum was opened. Proud to say that more than 1 million visitors came to the museum in less than a year. So very fortunate and blessed to be part of an extremely successful journey. that is sold out on a constant basis. But more importantly, like I said earlier, His Highness directed us that this building should not only be about this operation of visitors and immersive experience, which is absolutely amazing, and it converts ideation to us, but even as important, it has to be the home for future foresight and dialogue, and that happens in the 7th floor where the forum happens, or happens in the theater where we have in the auditorium, sorry, where we have different dialogues as well. The auditorium hosts more than 350 people. The 7th floor hosts more than 1,000 people at once, and this is where constant future relevant talks and convenings happen, and that's also a massive and a valuable asset for us to actually understand the future jointly. So that was the Museum of the Future. Now, the last part of my presentation, and I'm very wary of my time, I'll try to wrap up very soon. I'll just leave you with 10 megatrends, if you will. What do we see in the future in the next 10 and 20 and 50 years? Leave you with 10 megatrends for a reason. I want us to have follow-up conversations. I hope that we can create a better future together. And based on those megatrends and based on the reports, the megatrends, of course, are the ones that I'll leave are the titles. But the hope is that once we send the reports, we can have other avenues of collaboration other than what I've presented in the previous slides. But before that, again, we need to understand and be realistic that life and the world is not a smooth sail at all the times. We do face challenges always. This is one that we are very much aware of jointly. Climate change is out of control. Please pay attention to this statement below that says, when our children are grandparents, the average day in Dubai will be hotter than the hottest day. This is just a sign that climate change, which we all know is a clearly from the different convenings, whether it's COP or any other convening, the world is aware, but we have to re-emphasize on the importance of this topic and that we jointly need to do together. The struggles around the world, as you can see, are immense, and a lot of the world are actually facing major basic struggles with basic goods. The economy, as you know, is very volatile and is increasingly vulnerable, something that you're all aware of. More quotes about the economy, of course, just highlighting the vulnerability and how volatile the economy is. Inequality, of course, is a topic that we need to also take into consideration. Look at that statement: 1% of the world is twice richer than 90% of the rest of the world combined. Just giving you those messages, just to let you know that there are challenges around the world, and those are all some of a few things that we really need to pay attention to. And clearly the world is worried about those issues, and we always need to be concerned and we need to be wary of them. But of course, I mean, using this notion that I mentioned in the beginning, that we really need to convert challenges into opportunities and think in a way that there's nothing impossible and that we need to be positive and shift every challenge into a potential huge opportunity. And that's the way that we need to think. We'll leave you with those 10 mega trends. I'll start with megatrend number 1, materials revolution. The revolution in materials is immense. There's a lot that we can do jointly to leverage on all materials around the world to ensure that with the use of technology, the application of new material can be extremely valuable for us in the upcoming future. Of course, you can look at the nanomaterials and how tiny they are leveraging on technology. And this is something that, of course, leveraging on the different materials around the world can be an eye-opener and a dialogue initiator between us to ensure that we explore this opportunity. Data, I'm sure you're all aware. The evaluation of raw data, the amount of usage of data is growing not by the minute, but by the second. The value of it but it's how you actually make use of the best data and the contribution, like as you can see here, this is just, it just shows you the size of data around the world and the value of data. And since from 2022 till 2025, this data transfer contribution has actually quadrupled the size of Apple by itself. So it shows you the growth of this data and what we need to do together. But what's more important than this is how do we connect as a world to ensure that this data is regulated in the right way, which is the ultimate elephant in the room that we need to also think about. Of course, having that data and having that digital world will create an immense tech vulnerability, will create major cyber attacks, will create major crimes in the virtual world. And we haven't even scratched the surface. We haven't even entered this digital world and the metaverse. Apple has just announced their Vision Pro, if that's the name that I remember correctly. And imagine what's going to be in that world and what kind of crimes and cyber attacks are we going to avoid once this technology matures. I mean, look at those numbers here. By 2025, damage from cyber attacks will amount to 11 trillion annually. And look at this, what this compares to country GDPs. So it shows you how much we need to pay attention to this. And this goes back again to how we can work together to create the right framework to ensure that does not happen. Energy boundaries, of course, talking about new solutions for electric generation and storage. This is something, of course, that's in the eyes and minds of everyone, but we are re-emphasizing that by 2035, renewables will generate 60% of the world's electricity. Saving the ecosystem. Of course, saving the ecosystem, the ecological economics and environmental, social, and governance. Of course, ESG solutions will be part of defining, managing new ecosystems and reducing carbon footprints and becoming net positive. But we still need to do more. As you can see from this chart, the world needs to spend 4 times as much as it does today to achieve the net zero by 2050 and meet climate pledging. So lots of work to be done. Borderless world, fluid economies. I've mentioned this. We are becoming more and more borderless in every sense of this world. Back in my young days, the business was confined by the market around you. And I always say now, with this phone right here, you build an application, you press a button, the world becomes your market, which means that we're becoming more and more borderless. How can we really create the right ecosystem to make it a borderless and a friendly ecosystem that will help us really avail of this digital economy and its growth from, as you can see, from 2023 to 2025. So again, thinking about different ways on how we can work on that. Digital realities, this for me is linked to another concern that I'm going to mention, and I think Megatrend 8 or 9. The digital realities and the gaming is obviously something that is growing from as an economy perspective. Look at those numbers. There are 3.2 billion gamers. Look at its comparison to countries' populations. We are happy that those gamers are growing, but I'll tell you what, my biggest concern, and my colleagues and team members know that, I see it in friends and relatives and the younger generation, the amount of time they spend in front of a screen. They're absolutely amazing and smart when they're in front of the screen, and they know things that I would never understand. But when you see them, we have obesity challenges, we have social skill challenges, we have confidence level challenges, mental challenges because of that time spent. You ask those individuals to stand on a stage and talk. Sometimes you feel them not comfortable, but then you ask them to go on a screen and talk to a friend. They are as comfortable as ever. So there's pros and cons. And don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of the digital economy. There's trillions of economy there, but it's how you balance between our physical and mental well-being, which is one of the other mega trends that's linked to this, and to ensure that you really strike the right balance. Life with autonomous robots, it's inevitable whether we like it or not. We've seen the ChatGPT disruption, if you will, and the value of it. And I'll tell everyone this is just the beginning. Imagine adding ChatGPT to quantum computing and to robotics, and then we can realize what potential risk we're looking at, but also what potential reward we're looking at. So we need to make sure we really understand how to adapt to those advancements. Now, the good news is that humanity has always learned how to adapt to different technologies, whether it's the elevator or a plane or the internet. We've adjusted to that. And I remember asking Michio Kaku, one of the known futurists around the world, and we had a conversation here, and he has it in one of his videos, and he said that robotics will advance to an extent, but some people say that humans will always outsmart, and they'll ensure that those robots, as smart as they get, there will always be a switch button for the humans to switch them off. But the question was, and that's what he said, what if those robots became smart enough to stop you from switching them off? And as funny and interesting as this sounds, this is something that we really need to be aware of and try to understand whether this is something that we need to plan for. And the answer is absolutely yes. Shows you the size of the robotics market and how much it actually grows and why we believe this is something extremely important. This goes to the probably one of my favorite mega trends, the future of humanity with AI. What happens to humanity? How do we adapt to all those kind of advancements? What changes? What happens to the role of humanity with all this advancement? I mean, look at this. There's 350,000 health apps on Google and Apple stores, but up to 20,000 are mental health related, which is a very minute number. Only 800, which is 4%, are evidence-based, which is even a smaller figure, which means that we're not paying attention to that angle as much as it's a very important angle to align with the disruptive growth of AI and robotics and the role of humanity in the future, which will increase in risk if we really do not focus on the physical, mental well-being of humanity in this advancement. So they definitely work hand in hand. Advanced health and nutrition. As you can see, this is my final slide related to the mega trends. As you can see, biofoundries that harness biological processes to produce sustainable products, including novel agri-tech and foods, have the potential to improve individual and collective outcomes while reducing alternatives. Alternative proteins, as you know, they have been given the green light in the US. They've been tested in many countries, and again, it's something that we will need to really embrace and understand more. Look at the growth of this market: 2% by 2020. The total of the protein market, right, 12%, which is 290 billion by 2035, and this is an estimate for it. So the alternative proteins is something that's out there, and testing and tasting has taken place already and has advanced significantly. Last but not least, before I thank you, I'd like to leave you with this QR code, which I hope my picture or my video is not coming in the way, where you can actually scan and get the detailed report that talks about the 50 opportunities and the mega trends at the same time, to help you really deep dive into those topics. And my ultimate hope is that they can become a Kickstarter for conversations for us all to jointly work together to shape and create a better future together. And with that, I apologize for taking 53 minutes of your valuable time. And Iman, thank you so much for all your efforts, and looking forward to seeing you potentially all, not only virtually, but physically. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for this impressive and rich, very informative presentation. Uh, For me, I would like to listen for this like for 2 hours. I don't mind. Let's have few questions from the participants. We have a couple of interesting questions here. If you may allow me, Your Excellency.
Yes, of course.
Only a few minutes. We won't take much time.
Of course.
So one of the interesting questions is the UAE considering transforming deserts into tropical ecosystem?
Sorry, is this a question?
Yeah.
I thought it was a statement. Yes. So
Yeah,
are
is
we
the UAE considering transforming the deserts into a tropical ecosystem?
absolutely? As a topic, it obviously it's easier than it sounds.
Yeah,
As we know, of course, the climate change is a global challenge that we all change together, that we all face together. Obviously, we've done a study on the value of sand, and of course, we have a lot of it here. But there's specific qualities in sand that are needed to create this tropicalness, if you will, in areas. And unfortunately, it's not in the desert sand. So this is the biggest challenge that we are facing. Having said that, of course, we are working with different technologies to ensure that, the mystification and different leverage on drones to create more of a livable, let's say, ecosystem in different
ecosystem. Yes.
areas and spaces of the country.
Thank you so much. There's another also interesting question, which is, what are the first steps that you would recommend for countries to ensure their readiness to future challenges? What are the few steps, the first steps, let's say, that any country can start with to be ready to the future?
That's a great question, and sorry for being nosy as well, Iman. I'm looking through the questions myself to help you as well. But this is an excellent question, and it also maybe triggers a project that I didn't mention. We have a project that we work very closely to this question. It's actually an answer to the question. We have a Dubai Future Readiness Index,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm more than happy to share the metrics of it. And the idea of this index is that we really measure the future readiness of every government agency. It was announced by His Highness the Crown Prince, and we've developed the metrics for it, of course, leveraging on subject matter experts to ensure that we understand what is the future readiness of each and every entity. And some of the KPIs I can share, like, for example, the entity needs to have a chief futurist, and it has to have, for example, two experts working with the futurist. They maybe need to have an accelerator program within their entity to ensure that they're really enabling new ideas and startups. They need to maybe allocate some of their procurement capital to those ideas. So that's one thing. But I think the biggest advice to create this future readiness is the blessing that we have in the country, which is it should come top down. So we have that, and that's why things are moving faster. We have a leader that actually says the biggest risk is not to take risks. So when you have a leader that says that, the sky's the limit on where you can reach, because there's trust and there's belief, and there's a shooting for the star, if you will. So in that case, our life becomes easier. So when you have that DNA, it becomes easier. So it's a mindset thing. But of course, then you can create different programs like the Readiness Index, which we're more than happy to spend more time on to actually explain it.
Thank you so much. People here are concerned about the funding mechanisms. If you can tell
Yes.
us more about this.
Yes, I was about to say, I see one here saying, what one question.
Yeah.
I apologize, I can't see the names, so I'll just go ahead with the answers. But the funding mechanisms, so like I said, for us, the funding mechanism is one of them is the billion dirham fund that I mentioned. The way that the foundation runs, it's run by government funding, but at the same time, we are a foundation, so our plan is to create an endowment kind of structure where we become self-sustainable. Of course, the museum, thankfully, due to its operation, is financially or operationally sustainable from year one, sorry. But the idea is that we also invest in innovation and technology and create this endowment structure. It starts with VC, which is high risk, high reward. So obviously, I mean, it's deployment time at the moment, and we've done more than 16 or 17 transactions between funds and direct investing. We would like to diversify our asset base to create a yield generating portfolio. And this yield generating portfolio, the moment the assets under management grow, we then create the system that is sustainable and invests in the future and becomes a self-sustainable engine as we go. So initially, we're kind of backed by the government as we deploy into different asset classes. Once we hit that sweet spot of right yield generation, we will then be self-sustainable.
Great. I think someone from Costa Rica asking for the QR code that you have presented at the end of the presentation. I think they want us to show it again on the screen.
Yes.
Maybe we can, yeah.
I will actually share it right away, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Can you see it?
Yes, it's clear. Thank you so much. And there's also another question, I believe, from Costa Rica, which is how can a country prepare for the future when its own government and decision makers change in a very short time frame? For example, governments that change every 4 years.
So I think in principle, the idea of any governance change, the idea is that the plan, there should be a continuum in the plan. So regardless of who is there or who runs any entity or any government, if you have a robust plan that actually, and most of those plans are usually long-term. So the key in continuous governance change, whether it's an entity or a government, is to ensure that there's a sticking to the plan mentality if it's a long-term vision. So if someone had worked on a 2038 plan, if you will, the idea is that no matter how many governance changes happen throughout that cycle, is to ensure that there's continuity in the thinking and in the idea that the process continues and goes forward. And I think this is key. Whenever there's government or governance change in even in a business, you sometimes set up long-term businesses, but the CEO changes. The idea is that we do not disrupt everything if there's a plan that is promising and heading in the right direction.
That's true. I think referring to the global mega trends, people are concerned also with the unemployment rate, that they think it's going to increase rapidly since the automation sector is increasingly also very rapid. So does the UAE recognize this, and are there initiatives to reassure the people of work availability?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, at the UAE, for example, I mean, the fact that we have the academy, the fact that we have the readiness index all means that we are actually looking at different ways to ensure that the people of the UAE and whoever is in the UAE are ready for the future. It's right that jobs are changing, but jobs are being replaced by other jobs. And like I said, the nature of humanity has always been adaptation. And we are at a moment where we need to adapt to the reality that some jobs aren't needed anymore and are done much more efficient by AI and robotics and computers. And it's just a matter of constantly disseminating that knowledge and awareness through different academic entities or also through different businesses. And you can see that at a federal level, whether through the NAFIS program or whether through the Dubai Future Academy or many of the universities here, the courses that have been disseminated and the offerings that are there. I mean, the fact that you have thankfully an entity like Dubai Future Foundation means that you are hiring for jobs for the future. So having an entity that's actually foreseeing that is a big sign that the Emirate and the Emirates are really trying to be as ready as possible for the future.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for this really, again, impressive presentation and very comprehensive answers to the questions. And sorry to have few minutes later than the assigned time for this exciting session. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, and thank you for attending this exciting session.
More than a pleasure. And Iman, thank you very much for your great moderation and wishing you and the team all the best. And Your Excellencies, dear friends, sorry for taking much of your time, and looking forward to potentially a conversion of those discussions, whether through the reports or whether to what we've discussed today, to, like I said, create a better future for us and for the future generations. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.